ForCanonSake.LIVE, and I saw Twilight Zone episode 29, Nightmare as a Child. And that freaking weed whacking sound in the background is gonna give you nightmares as an adult. It is directed by Alvin Ganzer, written by Rod Serling, and if you haven't seen this episode, I will spoil it for you. Weed whackers, I'm gonna whack the weeds out of you. This episode starts and we're following a lady, and she's, you know, a lady, but then she encounters a child on the steps outside of her door, and she's like, "Who are you?" She's like, "I'm Helen." This is strange because she kind of reminds her as when she was a child, and this child keeps asking weird questions about her mom, and is like, "What happened to your mom? Don't you remember what happened to your mom? Tell us about your mom, please." And trying to get her to remember things about her mom. And as she uncovers more and more information about her mom, it turns out that she was murdered and she saw her get murdered. And it's a very traumatic experience that she kind of just pushed off to the side. She's like, "Nah, I'm not gonna deal with that. Nope. I'm not gonna remember it at all." But what's interesting is that this little girl's like, "You have to remember, you have to." And it turns out this little girl's like a younger version of herself or something. This episode is weird, but it's the Twilight Zone. This episode's not necessarily grounded in reality. It's more so looking at a psyche of a woman who has repressed trauma, and then whenever she has the repressed trauma brought up, then she's like unable to deal with it. What's interesting, with this repressed trauma, she notes that this guy murdered her mom, and then she leaves her apartment, and it's that guy. And that guy's like, "You know, I was hoping one of these days that you would figure out that it was me all along who murdered your mom." And I'm like, wait, hold on. First of all, why would the child have any context as to what the situation was? Like, who even did the murder? And your face is just in their memory forever? I don't even remember faces of people I met like 15 minutes ago. How are you supposed to remember a face of somebody who murdered your mom? I guess it's less significant. Oh boy. It's just interesting with the way that the memory is framed too, and the way it's shot. It's like, how could this child even remember your face? Guy, the only reason why she thinks that you murdered him and murdered her is because A, you said it yourself and you're like, "I'm come back for you. I've come back for you to get you." Again, not set in reality, I don't think, because if it were set in reality, how would the murderer know at what exact moment to come back to her and be like, "Well, I'm going to confess it was me who murdered your mom"? No, I really think this part also isn't set in reality. It's her dealing with the man. It's her confronting the man who murdered her mom after she finds out what happened to her mom. She was murdered. Why was she murdered? Well, she was doing some accounting, and this guy was like, "You gotta do some dirty deeds accounting. You gotta do some dirty accounting." She's like, "No, I'm gonna report you. I'm gonna report you to police." And then she got murdered over it. Money. Always the reason to murder somebody in a lot of media, it seems. So anyway, she's able to defeat him when he does a little bit of a tumble on the staircase, and it makes me think, okay, what could this mean metaphorically? I'm thinking that her coming to terms with her mother's murder, and then that guy suddenly appearing, and then she's able to quickly defeat him. Well, she has a little bit of like a struggle session, but she's able to defeat them. And I think this metaphorically means that she's over her trauma now. And she's able to live nice and free and happy and all that fun jazz. And also, speaking of trauma, no more weed whacker sounds. I'm so happy, chat. I'm so happy. And then after she notices this guy go tumble, and she goes back in her apartment, and she's like, "Oh, I gotta figure it out. Oh, what to do with it. And then, I don't know what happens. She opens her door, and it's an actual little girl that isn't supposed to be her. It's like a little girl. And she's like, "Oh, I'm so thankful for life. I'm so thankful now because I'm not being murdered. I do want to murder that guy who brought out, instead of a weed whacker, let's put the weed whacker away, Let's do a riding lawnmower. Amazing. That's gonna give me nightmares. But anyway, that's not pertaining to the episode. What is pertaining, though, is she's now in reality. She's able to face her reality with no hint of, I wonder what happened in the past, you know? All that fun jazz. So I think I like this episode a lot. It's not one that sticks to reality. It's a metaphorical episode, for sure. It's exploring the human psyche of somebody who's suffering trauma, then dealing with that trauma, and then finally facing the person who inflicted the trauma upon her. So she has a clear conscience, and she's not going to be thinking about this anymore. I like this episode a lot. I like her acting. I like the little girl's acting. She's like a really good, clear, concise speaker. It makes me very happy to see. Because like, wow, with the way that she's speaking and the way that her words are clear, very adult-like. So I gotta give this episode, this episode's like a solid 7.9 out of 10. If you like this review, watch another one. The platform really likes that. If you want a fast-track movie review, you can do that for $28 dinos at patreon.com/ASEPresents. And if you'd like to help support the daily grind of all the daily movie reviews until October 17th, 2024, and then it's going to be weekly, go to this link tree. Find the way you can help support the daily grind of all the daily movie reviews. So we can go here. And until next time, I'm mint salad sauce. See you later, my sour croutons and bacon bits. Woohoo. You know, instead of running away from my nightmares, I'm gonna dance away.